What's up, survivors? In today's video, we're going to be looking at 50 tips and tricks for 7 Days to Die 1.0. These are a mixture of beginner and advanced tips, so if you do learn anything new or have any tips or tricks of your own, then feel free to leave them in a comment down below. First up on the list is Double Dipper. When you get a quest for a POI, you can actually loot the entire location first, and then when you start the quest, it will reset the entire POI, including all of the juicy loot inside. If you're not looking to speedrun your quests for the trader, then this can be a great way to stock up on loot and learn your way through all of the different POIs. This works with all loot in the POI, so make sure to do this in locations like Cracker Book or Savage Country. If you play in a world with loot respawn enabled, you may notice that in areas where your character is all the time, the loot never respawns. And that is because if you go within a certain radius of that loot container, it resets the timer, but only if the container is empty. So you can leave an item inside that container, and after 7 days, which is the default for loot respawn, you can take that item out and the loot will instantly respawn. I used to think this was a bug because this has worked since at least Alpha 15, but it's still in the game. Cop cars and ATMs are two of the best things to do this with, in my opinion. Speaking of cop cars, they can spawn some good loot from ammo to mods and even weapons. You may notice that all cop cars are locked when you find them. Now there's two ways you can go about getting into them. First, you can damage the cop car to break the lock, but when that happens, the lock will jam and an alarm will go off. This will spawn in a mini horde, and they will always be strong zombies. Day 1 will be a bunch of ferals, later on into the game, it'll always be rads. Kill the zombies or run away until they despawn, then you can break into the car again to unjam it and get the loot. You can also use lockpicks to break inside of the car, avoiding all of the mess from the previous method. When in doubt, place down a hatch frame in a doorway and slug it out, the tried and true method of playing it safe. This is an extremely effective way to clear POIs or to even help protect your base. Not only that, but they are also good to use in horde bases as a fighting position. You can place them on the ground or rotate them and place them from the ceiling. You can use a bucket to pick up a water source block and place it down inside your base. If you have a water purifier mod inside of your helmet, you can then freely drink from the water source whenever you are at your base. To drink from the water, you need to make sure you have nothing in your hand. You can drink from the water without the purifier mod, but you will run the chance of contracting dysentery. You can also pop a vitamin, which will also protect you from getting dysentery. Destroyed dew collectors not only have a high chance of spawning with a Forge Ahead book, but they also have a very rare chance of spawning tools for the dew collector itself, which include the gatherer, the tarp, and the water filter. You can buy these from the trader. The tarp and the gatherer are quite cheap, but the filter is quite expensive at around 7,000 dukes. With max bartering bonus, you can get this down to around 1,000 dukes, but always make sure to check these destroyed dew collectors when you see them.
There's a zombie apocalypse out there.
If you live by the way of the hoarder, then you're gonna love this one. The robotic drone has a storage mod that you can craft for it when you find the schematic. Now this mod unlocks an extra 8 slots inside of the drone, but you can actually stack these mods. A tier 6 drone can hold up to 4 mods, allowing you to get an extra 32 slots of storage on top of the 16 that it already has, giving you a grand total of 48 extra storage slots. This one is a must-have for any survivor that loves the loot. With the release of 1.0, the Fun Pimps made a change to how many quests you can do in a day before you stop gaining progression towards the next tier of quests you need to unlock. In your world settings, there is actually an option to change this. By default, it is set to 4 quests per day, but you can turn this up to 8 or even down to 1, or you can set it to unlimited, so then there is no cap on how many quests you can do in a day. Doors are not only great for keeping zombies out of your base, but they can also be used to manipulate zombie pathing. You can set up multiple fighting positions within your horde base, so that way, if one fighting position becomes compromised or overrun, then you can turn that path off and open up another one. As long as zombies see it as a viable path to get to you, then they will eventually make their way there. When using batteries in a battery bank, they will eventually lose charge until they are empty and no longer work. Now there is a way to repair them, but if you hook up a generator or a solar bank, then it will actually recharge the batteries. You just need to make sure the battery bank is turned on and that it is not powering anything else while it's charging. With the introduction of an armor overhaul in 1.0, there is now a lot of bonuses you can get from armor, including the nerd outfit, which gives you a chance to get 2 points from reading a magazine instead of 1, the mining gloves and the mining helmet, which increase block damage and ore harvest, the scavenger gloves, which increase salvaging harvest, the enforcer glasses that increase buying and selling prices, and much more. Now, the ones that I just mentioned, I like to keep on my bike for convenience, so I can swap to them when doing certain activities. You could also have a separate armor set for Horde Nights or for questing. Candy can be extremely helpful in this game and can be purchased from any working vending machine. Vending machines restock every day. There are certain candies that I buy every day to help me in game. Rockbusters for extra mining harvest, hackers for extra salvaging harvest, sugar butts for better bartering, and atomic junkies for increased explosive damage on Horde Nights. Make sure you're buying the candies that best suit your playstyle every day so you don't run out. In my opinion, Supercorn is one of the best things in the game to sell. One stack can sell for around 8,000 dukes, with full bartering bonuses allowing you to get 24,000 dukes every trader cycle, just through selling Supercorn. It is used in a few recipes, but very rarely will you ever have to make them, or even want to. The Supercorn recipe is a guaranteed drop from Bob's Boars and Carl's Corn POI. All tiered POIs in the game have a natural path that you are supposed to take. The way to find this path is indicated by lights, whether it's a torch or a lamp, so pretty much any light source. Make sure to keep an eye out for this if you find yourself getting lost in POIs. And just because it's the intended way, doesn't mean it's the only way. You can still bash down any door or wall and carve your own path through the POI. Land claim blocks are a must for any base. By placing down a land claim block in a POI that you want to turn into a base, it will stop the trader giving you quests at that location so you don't accidentally start a quest and delete your entire base. It also blocks any zombie spawns, so if you have cleared that POI, then no zombies will respawn there, and on top of that, it allows you to pick up any workstation that you have placed down, providing it's within the radius of the land claim block. There are a total of 18 different book sets in the game, and each set contains 7 books. Make sure to read all of the books you find because each book pretty much unlocks a unique perk for your character, and some of these are extremely good. When you have completed an entire book set, you will also receive an additional perk relevant to that book set. I recommend taking the time to read through all of these. If you find yourself hiding inside your base at night time, then that's the perfect time so you're not wasting daylight. Not only is the bone knife a great weapon on day one, but in my opinion, it is the best tool for harvesting crops. Whether it's wild crops or crops that you have planted, the bone knife has one of the fastest attack animations in the game and uses next to no stamina on top of that. It only takes 1 bone to repair. So the next time you go to harvest some crops, consider making a bone knife first and trying it out. When digging up buried supplies or even buried treasure, try placing down 4 shaped blocks, one at each of the 4 cardinal points. When you start digging and the circle shrinks, it will give you a better indication of where the treasure is going to be buried. For any legacy players out there, tree stumps are no longer searchable, but you can break them down for a chance at receiving some honey. This can be a lifesaver in the early game. Cracker Book has always been one of the most important POIs in the game, but even more now than ever since skill progression is directly linked to magazines. You're going to find a lot of magazines in a Cracker Book, so make sure to bring your nerd outfit if you have one. But not just that, you're also going to find a lot of books and schematics inside as well. Always double load a Cracker Book if you get one as a quest, and even if you don't have one as a quest, I recommend to always loot it when you find one. Savage Country is up there with Cracker Book as one of the most important POIs in the game now. This is the best place to search in the game if you're on the hunt for legendary parts. But not just that, you're also going to find a good amount of cloth, leather, sewing kits, and armor parts to help with that armor crafting. Just like the Cracker Book, I recommend to always loot these when you get the chance. Make sure you are utilizing your map markers. One thing I like to do with mine is mark important POIs such as Savage Country and Cracker Book. That way when you need to get some magazines or legendary parts, you can visit the closest trader to your marker and try get the POI as a quest so you can reset the loot and take it all again. Each biome has its own difficulty indicated by red scales in the top right hand corner of your screen. The forest biome has 0 scales, making it the easiest. The burnt forest has half a scale, the desert has 1 scale, the snow biome has 1.5 scales, and the wasteland has 2 scales. When you go into these biomes, it raises your game stage, which is going to make the zombies you encounter harder, meaning you will start to encounter more ferals and more radiated zombies. But not only that, it also raises your loot stage, meaning you're going to find better loot. In other words, the higher the risk, the greater the reward. In the early game, steel is going to be hard to come by unless you have a crucible. If not, you can wrench down streetlights to receive anywhere from 1 to 3 pieces of steel. This can be a lifesaver when you only need a small amount to craft some mods or to finish off building one of the vehicles. When mining with the auger, it will generate a lot of heat, but there is a way to minimize that heat. When you activate the auger, so the second that you start it up, that is the only time that it generates heat. So by holding down on the action button and mining continuously, you will generate less heat than spamming the mining button. But do bear in mind that every time you break a block, you also generate heat. So in hindsight, just be prepared for a lot of screamer activity while doing big mining trips and using the auger. When harvesting gore blocks or animal carcasses with a bone knife, if you use a power attack and look away, you can use the power attack again almost instantly, saving you a lot of time instead of waiting for the animation of the normal power attack to finish. When you're mining and breaking blocks, it will produce heat and that will call in screamers, but if you crouch down while doing this, it produces half of the heat, so you won't have to deal with as many screamers while you're out and about on your mining trips. This is especially helpful when using an auger. Cars are one of the best things in the game to loot if you're on the hunt for vehicle magazines. They have a high chance at spawning them, especially if you are specced into Grease Monkey. Passing gas crates also have a high chance at spawning with vehicle magazines. Vitamins are not only overpowered in the early game, but in the late game too. In the early game, if you have a vitamin and a bunch of sham sandwiches or murky water, then you can pop it and eat and drink to your heart's content. This will protect you from contracting dysentery. In the late game, I like to pop a couple before clearing tier 6 infested quests because they make you immune to getting infected and fatigued. But do be aware, you cannot craft vitamins, so don't eat them all in one go because you do need them to cure being fatigued. Speaking of infested quests, the tier 6 infested cache is one of the only ways in the game to get a tier 6 item without crafting it. This is a guaranteed drop, but these quests are also no joke, so make sure you are prepared before taking one on. There are legendary weapon bundles in the game that will give you a tier 6 weapon, but these are extremely rare to come by. The tier 6 infested cache, like I said, is a guaranteed tier 6 item. Brass isn't something you run out of too often, but if you do, and you have money to burn, literally, you can smelt dukes down in the forge to turn them into brass. 20,000 dukes will net you 20,000 brass at a 1-for-1 ratio. When a door gets damaged, you may notice a hole that starts to form in the middle of it. You can actually attack through this with your melee weapon, or you can fire your ranged weapons through it. The spear is the best melee weapon for this tactic. Parkour is easily one of the best skills in the game, but can also be the worst. When you have 2 points into parkour, it allows your character to jump 1 block higher, meaning you can jump 2 blocks high. Now this has saved my life more times than I can count. When a group of zombies have you cornered, you can jump somewhere to safety, or even jump the horde and start running. Now once you max parkour out, it allows you to jump 3 blocks now. This sounds good in theory, but me personally, I find that I end up falling off buildings or ledges more than often because your character will end up smacking his head on something, which can end up pushing you off a ledge. So this also makes it a bit of a nightmare to jump through a 2 block high window frame. The first rank into physician can be a lifesaver in pretty much every build. It requires 3 points into intellect to unlock the first rank, but the beauty of this perk is it allows you to instantly heal sprained arms or legs with a splint, and the third rank allows you to instantly heal broken bones with a cast. The physician perk also allows you to get more healing from your medical supplies. Although farming has been nerfed quite a lot in the newer versions of the game, it can still be a lot of fun setting one up. If you misplace a farm plot or decide that you want to move your farm, you can use a shovel to destroy a farm plot, allowing you to pick it back up. Farm plots also have their own shape menu, so you have a few different options when building your farm. Food is overpowered. Not only can you cook food that will keep you full all day, but some recipes will give you extra bonuses from max stamina and increased bartering for buying, and even healing you more than a lot of meds in the game. Kitchen cupboards are the best place to find the cooking magazines in the game, and you will find them in pretty much every tier 1 to 3 house in the game. Food piles and shamway crates also have a high chance at dropping the cooking magazines. The learning elixir will give you a 20% XP buff for 6 minutes. You can purchase these from traders, but they are most commonly found in drink vending machines for 750 dukes. The best time to drink one of these is on a horde night, allowing you to get boosted XP rates. If you perk into Iron Gut under the Fortitude tree, it can increase the duration of all consumable buffs in the game, including the learning elixir. These also stack up to 3 times, so you can drink a total of 3 for a boost of 18 minutes, or if you're fully specced into Iron Gut, then 3 will last for 27 minutes. If you do a massive base upgrade, that can be another good time to use one because you get quite a lot of XP from upgrading blocks, same with selling a lot of items to a trader. As you progress through the game, you're going to end up with a lot of unwanted mods. If you mod items before selling them, like armor, weapons, and tools, then it actually increases the selling price on that item, opposed to selling them both separate. Repairing the item can dramatically increase the price on top of that. When making your way through POIs, you may notice small piles of unlootable trash on the ground. When you walk over these, they will make a noise that will alert any zombie within a certain radius of your presence. These piles have very low HP, so I recommend breaking them if you're trying to sneak through a POI. They make no noise when broken. The book, Urban Combat Volume 3, also allows you to sneak over trash without making any noise. Cloth is a very common item to find, but I can guarantee you will run out of it on more than one occasion. You need cloth to craft most of the armor sets, and on top of that, you need it to craft duct tape. I recommend to at least break down every double bed that you find and all of the curtains inside of POIs. If you get into the habit of doing this, then you shouldn't have too many issues with cloth. Tents at military outposts are also great to break down, and if you find rolled up carpet, that is one of the best things to harvest for cloth. You can also turn cotton into cloth at a 1-to-1 ratio, and one of the Wasteland treasure books allows you to turn plant fibre into cloth, but I do think the first methods are more viable. Duct tape is the bane of every multiplayer server. In my opinion, this is the item that you will need the most of in any playthrough, because it's used in just about every recipe in the game, and some recipes need an absurd amount of it. You can craft duct tape with glue and cloth, which means you need a lot of those two items. If you collect all the bones that you come across and set up a few dew collectors at your base for murky water, then you turn those two ingredients into glue, and if you followed the previous method, you should have enough cloth to turn it all into duct tape. Traders can also sell duct tape, so make sure to be checking their stock. You never know when you're going to need it, but when you do, it's usually a lot.
Stock up on medical supplies.
Drop boxes are a fantastic thing to have in your base. When you're out and about looting during the day, you don't want to be wasting daylight sorting out storage boxes. That's why I always have a few drop boxes in my base. That way I can drop my loot there during the day, and when I come back at night time, I can sort it out, utilizing the most of my daytime. I also like to leave drop boxes outside traders, and that way if you're questing in another town, you can drop your loot there before you take another quest, and then take what you want before you travel back to your base. Zombies have a mechanic where if they take full damage, they can go into a state called Rage Mode, and they will beat on everything and anything around them for around 10 seconds, but that is only if they are within 11 blocks of the player. This is why, when building horde bases, it's good to build them at least 12 blocks high off the ground, or build a pit underneath your fighting position, where zombies can fall, and as long as they're 12 blocks away from your character, they will not go into Rage Mode and just continue their loop back up to your fighting position. Always keep this in mind when designing your horde bases. Traders love to hustle you, and now it's your turn to turn the tables. If you max out better barter to rank 5 under the intellect tree, it's going to give you a 25% bonus when buying and selling. On top of that, you can use tier 6 legendary enforcer glasses for 20%, equip the cigar mod into them for an extra 10%, use a sugar butt candy for another 10%, drink a grandpa's awesome sauce for another 10%, and if you have read the Magnum Enforcer Volume 4, you can hold a 44 Magnum in your hand for an additional 5%, and all of these bonuses stack, giving you a grand total of 80% better buying and selling prices. You can also eat a pumpkin cheesecake to give you an extra 5% on buying prices. So look into getting all of these items before you do your next big sell-off, and even early game, utilize any of the bonuses. You don't have to have the max bonus to take advantage of this.
Sorry, but I've never heard of it.
Wandering hordes usually spawn around every 2 days in game and will always make their way towards your character. They can consist of a specialized group of zombies, such as a dog horde, a soldier horde. You can even get zombie bears that spawn as part of a wandering horde. Each zombie that is part of that horde has a higher chance than normal at dropping a loot bag. So make sure you're always dealing with wandering hordes when you can, not just for the XP, but also for a chance at some extra loot. I also couldn't get any footage of wandering hordes, so that's why you got big-headed zombies instead. As of 1.0, zombie bears and direwolves now have a 100% chance to drop a red loot bag, which has also been buffed since 1.0 to contain some really good loot. Both of these zombies spawn naturally in the wasteland biome, so if you're feeling ballsy, then go hunt them down for some good loot. But be careful, both of these zombies are tough, but the risk is worth the reward. Destroyed workstations are one of the best places to find Forge Ahead magazines. You can always find 4 different destroyed workstations at every trader you visit, so make sure to be looting those. The destroyed cement mixer is always a guaranteed drop for the Forge Ahead magazine. When you start to learn your way around the different POIs, you can start cheesing the end loot on them. If you know where the end stash is, then there's nothing stopping you from breaking down a couple of doors or using your shapes to pole up to a rooftop to snag that juicy loot. When you complete a tier of quests, say for example your tier 1s, you will have to wait an entire day until the trader will offer you tier 2 quests. You can travel to a new trader and they will have the new tier of quests ready for that day, but you can also exit out of your game and load back in, and that resets all the quests at the trader, allowing you to take the next tier of quests straight away at your local trader. Early game, mechanical parts are crucial to your progression, especially if you don't find a wrench. You need mechanical parts to craft a wrench, but not just that, you need them to craft a workbench too. If you're lucky enough to find an engine, you can scrap it for 30 mechanical parts, and that will give you enough to craft both of these items. You can find engines in cars and past gas crates. And that's all the tips and tricks I have for today. But hopefully you learned a thing or two, and if you want to see more 7 Days to Die tips, tricks, or guides, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below. What video would you like to see next? Cheers, survivors.